Hey, everybody, welcome to the Player's Take, episode 203. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, Montrell Rice. Montrell, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
We are back to our normal shows after a few weeks of, our normal holiday shows where we just do topics for a few weeks. But how are you doing on this fine January 12th day?
It was leg day, so my legs feel like spaghetti right now.
So no kitties on the lap tonight.
Yeah, man, they can fuck off. Especially Deli, she's fucking 12 pounds. She needs to lose some fucking weight.
Shit, you gotta get her in the gym, man.
Yeah.
Bring her to the gym. That'll play.
Yeah. So
yeah.
she's gonna be mad when we cut her portions, but she needs to lose weight.
Mm-hmm. That's how you gotta do
But
it.
yeah. Besides that, ever since the start of the new year, like I don't really like to do the whole New Year resolution thing, so I didn't tweet about it or anything. My whole thing is just like to do it. But I guess it's some resonance. If you speak it into existence, it may happen. So my New Year resolution is to get back into the gym. So right now I'm doing at home calisthenics. Calisthenics. And next month, or either I'm gonna do it for 2 months, or even we'll do it to the end of January or the end of February. I haven't decided yet. Um, because I know right now the gyms are filled with like people right now.
Yeah, because they all have the New Year's resolutions as well, right?
Yeah, so usually they filter out around. When I used to go to the gym regularly, they usually filter out around mid February, early March. So I'm probably gonna wait till then to go back to the gym, and I'm just gonna start going hard like I used to. Just get back into the gym and stuff like that. I've been feeling better though. I've been eating a lot better. I cut my intake down from soda from like I used to drink like maybe 2 or 3 a week. I'm down to like 1 a week now. So I don't drink soda like that anymore and all that shit. So I actually started doing that before the new year. So my diet was before the new year, and then I added the workout. So
that's good.
yeah.
That's good, man. Yeah, I don't have the mental. I just don't have the energy to. I probably do need to figure it out at some point though, the nutrition and exercise, but it'll hit me someday.
Yeah, I just tell people to start small. You don't have to do anything big. Like start like walking around the block once a day, or whatever the case may be. And
yeah,
then
it's
you just
just
grow from there.
even that, like, it becomes like if I worked from home, I think I could handle it, right? Like all the time, because I could just do it on my lunch, every day.
Yeah.
But I can't do that when I go to the office, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I got to figure out where to fit it. Do I do it after work, before work? It's like, so I don't know. It's something else. I have been thinking about it. I gotta figure that out. But it's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're taking care of yourself, man.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I say we let's get into the
What
rigmarole.
about you?
We'll get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's true. I didn't talk about myself. I mean, it's nothing really going on, man. I'm just kind of chilling. I'm finding an equilibrium at work. I'm like not actively avoiding my boss, but I'm trying to minimize contact, I guess, as much as possible. And he did piss me off today. That did happen, but I got over it. And went on with my day, and then I didn't talk to him for the rest of the day, so it was fine. It's great.
All right.
So yeah, it's all right. I mean, yeah, it's just just job is the job. I love my team, that I manage, and most of the teams that I work with. It's just unfortunately I have a boss, and then one of my peers is not. They're just not. They're not good coworkers, unfortunately. Like I just don't feel like they do their jobs well, and their attitudes are not great, and they also hate each other, so it's like super awkward.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just this like annoying situation that I wish would pop. Like one of them would just exit the situation, and then everything would probably be okay. But it's not. They are stubborn as hell. So other than that, just chilling for the most part. Football playoffs are this weekend. I've been really just trying to like kind of take things down a notch the last like 2 or 3 weeks and not do a whole lot.
Mhm.
Kind of get myself back to a state of equilibrium, I guess, at the beginning of the year. Um,
Yeah.
so I can go into this next year with more energy. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, just been hanging out for the most part. Um, all right, let's get into the show proper. So, for those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter at The Players Take, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. All right, Montrell, before we get into what we're playing, you do have a little icebreaker here. Let's get into it real quick. So you mentioned a tweet before the show that you had seen and kind of got into it with about our video games falling off, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, take us through this.
Well, pretty much, I'll keep it quick. Somebody tweeted out, or our video games falling off, or whatever, or they said video games are falling off. They didn't ask a question; they just said it, and then somebody else tweeted like, video games aren't falling off. But I feel like the real thing of video games falling off is triple A gaming is falling off, like, severely. We have inflated budgets,
Hmm.
and all this other bullshit
Release
like that.
schedules are really
Rel
long. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's to the point, though, where we get these long release schedules, the journey is not worth, or the destination is not worth the journey. Um So, I mean, granted, these games are 5 or 6 years ago at this point now, I believe. But like Destiny 2, for example, I made an example for Destiny 2, and I actually like Destiny, but it is a Destiny 2 example where um the reason I feel like the games are falling off is because we made so many excuses for said games.
Right.
I just want to get a good game that releases at launch. I'm not going to go into the cyberpunk shit. Instead, I'll mention the game that I championed and I loved until it came out, which was Halo Infinite. That
Yeah.
game was in development for about 6 or 7 years, and then it came out and it was utterly trash. I mean, the gameplay was good, but everything surrounding it was trash. Um,
Somehow there was no content.
Exactly. Like the single player was decent, but then
Yeah.
there's no co-op campaign. I think they just dropped that.
No
And
Forge,
everything of that nature. No Forge.
like 5
Yeah, they
multiplayer maps, no
exactly.
playlist,
No
Battle Pass
playlist or anything
zero.
like that.
Yeah, just yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's and one can argue with those are free to play. And it's like, okay, cool. But then you got Destiny 2, right? Destiny 2 released for $60. I remember when it came out for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Or PC came later. But I remember when that game came out, same issue that Destiny 1 had at launch, lack of content and everything like that. And then as the expansions went on, they fixed it. But
Mhm.
with Destiny 2 went to a whole different extreme where they actually went free to play and you just buy the expansions and everything like that. And
Yeah.
um it's like when you talk about Destiny in a vacuum or in a bubble or games like Destiny, right? Like your Cyberpunks, your Halo Infinites, and everything like that, they may get fixed down the line, right? The developers work hard on them and they fix them. But my thing is, when are we? The reason why video games are falling off is because we have this period where the community gets divided on the games. Battlefield 2042, I was a champion in that game. Came out utter trash, and it's like, oh, but people are telling me now the game's good, bro. And it's like, I don't care. I put hours into the game when it launched. So you're going to tell me my 100 hours, my 200 hours on the game when it launched didn't matter because now the game is good? That doesn't
Yeah.
make any fucking sense to me, you
Yeah.
know? So I feel like AAA gaming in the sense is falling off because well, first of all, do you feel like AAA gaming or gaming in general is falling off, Justin? Do you feel that way?
No, I mean, I think the statement is just like, I mean, it's Twitter, so it's probably just trying to
Yeah.
stir up drama. But to answer the question, no, gaming's not falling off. AAA gaming, I'd say is not falling off. It's pockets, right? There are pockets of these spheres that, yeah, you could say they're falling off. Like live service games are a really good example.
Mhm.
And this has been true for 20 years. So maybe they've always been falling off, you know? But they come out and they're a fucking hot mess and they're broken and they don't have they're not finished, they don't have content, they're missing fucking voice acting lines and shit, like and things like that, and audio and fucking mess, right? This has been happening for like MMOs for 20 years, 20 plus years at this point. So these games, there's a consistent trend there, but that has trickled into single player games as well. Where I will argue, Final Fantasy 15. I know everybody hates when we bring this up, but the reason we're so hard on that game is because Montrell and I played it at launch and it was a bad game. Like, I don't care what it is now, like that's not an acceptable business model to release a game in the state that game was released in and then fix it over the course of 2 years. It's nice that they fixed it rather than abandoning it, but they fixed it by charging you more money for it, like it's not even like the fixes were free. So I don't know why we're patting companies on the back for shit like that. It's like there's to Montreal's point, like why are we defending them for shit like that? That is bad behavior. They're taking advantage of their customer base, especially for fucking like Final Fantasy. Like, come on, bro. Or Destiny as well. Like, I feel like Destiny 2 at launch, like it was like the thing is Destiny 2 has always felt good to play, right? Like the mechanics
Oh
are good.
yeah.
It's mechanically very strong game. But
Yeah.
that game at launch had nothing in it. There was the campaign was mediocre at best, and then there was very little content to do. There was a raid that was in Destiny until recently. It was very hard to do raids unless you had a static, so it's like most of the game was just either locked out to you or there wasn't much to do. You would do the weekly nightfall and then you would do certain amount of strikes until you got the fucking currency you wanted or whatever, or drops you wanted for the week, and then that's it. Um, so which that was coming from a game that had been built up over the course of 3 years, and they just stripped all the build up out and made the game bare bones again for no reason. Like, I don't know why they got away with that. It
Yeah.
is weird that they got away with that because there's no
And
reason
that's
for the
what
game to launch in that state.
yeah, and that was my biggest takeaway. And I may have made a mistake because I was kind of debating with somebody. Um, I was like, Final Fantasy 14 kind of had a similar thing, but they took that game offline. I don't even remember when the original Final Fantasy 14 was released.
It was
All I remember is a realm.
2009, I think.
Okay, yeah, all I remember is a realm reborn. Like I don't even remember 14, the original, and and then Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn came out, and it's like people are like, well, how can you defend that game? And it's like I'm not necessarily defending it, but it's like I don't remember. Like that's how bad the game was. I want to say they took that game offline for a minute, and then they
Well,
was like, we're just
they
gonna
kept
redesign the
it
game.
they kept it going for like a year, and
Okay.
they endeavored to fix it. I remember this specifically because I did play the beta for 14, the original beta, and it was
Hmm.
terrible. I played it for I don't know an hour, and I was like, "This is bad, dude. I can't believe they're releasing this game in this state." So it was really bad. But they endeavored to fix it, and the community abandoned the game extremely fast after it launched. Like there was very few
Okay.
people playing, but those people who stayed basically kind of beta tested A Realm Reborn for the rest of us because they started transforming the game for about a year to a year and a half, I think. And they did do things in the game. They added content and then they culminated because you remember A Realm Reborn, the basis of that game's story is that it takes place like 5 years after a cataclysm. That
Yeah.
cataclysm happened in the original version of Final Fantasy 14. That's when they
Oh,
ended
okay.
it there and then they shut the servers down until A Realm Reborn came out. So that's what they did there. Which actually that was a while Square doesn't get pats on the back for the way they launched the game, the
Hmm.
way they handled it post launch, I think was admirable, right? But that was a long time ago, though. I'm going to talk more about the modern, like right now, with games. I think the idea of like even AAA games falling off. I think this is kind of intersecting into a more subjective sphere for me because we've talked about a lot on this show that we get game fatigue, right? Like we get
Yeah.
fatigued with video games and there's periods where we don't even want to play anything, or we don't want to play single player games, and I'm kind of in that point right now, myself. So it's a thing where I think if you're feeling that games are falling off, maybe you need to go play something different, dude. Like try a different genre, or maybe go play some indie game that you've never heard of and like looks appealing to you. And just
I,
totally change like where you're coming at the medium from, because if you're at the point where you're exhausted with games, I think you might just maybe you're just exhausted with the types of games you play, you know?
yeah, that's true. I don't know. I feel like why is that their only two choices though? I I just feel like the video game economy is so inflated to where there's either lower class, which is like I don't want to call them lower class, but I'm just separating it like that, right? So
Low
you got
budget.
the
Let's call them low budget.
yeah, low budget games,
Yeah.
which are their indie games, and then you got the high budget games, which are,
God of
triple A
War, yeah.
games.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But then there aren't any middleware games anymore. Like in middleware games used to push the boundaries because it was like a make it or break it scenario for them. A lot of our franchises that we grew up in love, were middleware games before they became
Yeah.
the franchises they are now. They were
Yeah.
mid. Like,
Yeah.
they
Bayonetta.
were the definition. Yeah, Bayonetta, the
Bayonetta.
definition
Yeah.
of mid. I mean, so I don't know. Are video games falling off? No, but is the economy fall of video games falling off? I think
I
yes.
just think
I
that I
think
think the level of innovation is much lower. There's a huge aversion to risk because the stakes have become so high with these game releases, where you are in 5, 6 year development cycles in it with a game, and your budget has ballooned to 300 million, and suddenly you need to sell fucking like a million, 2 million copies to even break even on your development costs. Like that's insane. You haven't even made a profit till you sell like 1 or 2 million copies. That's crazy, dude. That's the issue. So there's like this risk averse mentality with these bigger companies. And like nobody has a solution. Like it to me, the solution to me is shortening the scope of these games, like
yeah.
Callisto Protocol, for example, just came out in December, and it got mediocre reviews. Like it's middling, like it's around a 7. Some people hate it, some people really like it. But the consistent thing I've heard about that game is that it's small and short, and that's a negative for a lot of people. And we've talked about this before too, that this is a mentality that I think is really damaging for the industry as a whole, because you're training companies into thinking that time spent with a game equals value, and that's not true. Like in most cases, there are cases with certain types of games, right? If I get a 10-hour Star Ocean game, I'm going to be upset, right? Because that's not what Star Ocean is. It's like, or a 10-hour Xenoblade Chronicles game, that's not what Xenoblade Chronicles is. But on the other end of the spectrum, though, I also don't need 150 hours Xenoblade Chronicles game, and that's what I'm starting to get out of that
Yeah,
franchise, and
exactly.
it's exhausting. And there's got to be a happy middle ground somewhere in there, and it depends on the type of game, right? We can't compare Xenoblade Chronicles to Callisto Protocol. Callisto Protocol takes 8-10 hours to beat, whereas Xenoblade takes 70. Those aren't the same genre. They're not made by the same companies. We shouldn't be comparing value between those two games based on the time they you spend to play them. To me, it's more about
Yeah.
the quality of the experience, you know. And you can argue that that is subjective, of course, but that's my thing. If the game's scope is smaller, right, and you have less content to make, period, you're going to make the content you do make more dense and more fulfilling for the players, right? It's going to be a higher quality. It's going to be more detail there. They're really going to hone in on how to make that fun, and make that the best it can
Yeah.
be. Whereas the approach now is like fucking Assassin's Creed or something like that, where you have these giant, massive open worlds that are just filled with random shit. And it's like a lot of it just blends together at a certain point because that's what they have to do. Like they're making a huge game. They don't have time to fucking make every single quest feel good. So I think that's like part of the issue here is yeah, AAA maybe is not hitting right now, or hasn't been lately as well as it has, because A, we're not getting as many games as often, but B, because the games we are getting maybe are stretched a little bit. in terms of the amount of content they have, and I feel like we are building towards some kind of dam bursting at some point in the future, like the next 5 to 10 years, where this is not really sustainable, and we're seeing it all over the place with studios closing, and we're going to talk about two things today, where big publishers are canceling tons of games right now, because they're not successful companies right now. Like, they can't afford to fucking make these projects. Like, it's they're failing, and there's a reason for that. So
Yeah, exactly.
kind of
So
my
I
viewpoint
don't
on it.
know. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't want to harp on it too long, but it
Hmm.
was just on my mind. So
Yeah,
there
no,
you go.
it's a good way to start us off. All right, Montrell, let's move on and get into what we've been playing. I mean, we haven't talked about what we've been playing for 3 weeks. I think was the last time we
Yeah.
did, and well, I don't have a lot to talk about, so I don't think either of us do actually. But do you want to go first, or?
Yeah. I haven't really touched Ion in like 3 days, 3 or 4
Yeah,
days.
let's talk about Ion Classic, because nobody knows we're playing that, because we haven't talked about this since we started playing it.
Oh yeah, that's
We
true. That's
didn't
true.
mention it randomly last week, I think, as like a throwaway, but like, yeah. So we started playing Ion Classic at the end of December, like I think like right after Christmas or right around Christmas. It was like Christmas weekend, I think, and
Yeah.
it was me, you, Brad, and Jet for the most part. Andy kind of got in afterwards, and he's trying to catch up, but you and this was funny. I'm always into this game. I'm pretty much always down for this game. The problem last year I had is that the community like drove me out of the game, at the time.
Hmm.
And I was playing by myself for the most part. Nobody was playing with me. So that drove me out. Like, the fact that I had no one to play with, and the people I did play with were kind of jerks and a little toxic. I just kind of left the game. So then I don't even remember why we started playing it, but everybody just picked it up, started playing it, and I already had my character, but I made a character with you guys, made a ranger, and I think everybody was having fun for a while. That's how it felt, and I think you and Brad specifically, have seemingly hit a wall with this game at the level 40ish. So I mean, yeah, talk through your experience, I guess, with this game. Like, how do you feel about
No, I actually really like the game, to be honest with you.
it?
It's just yeah, around like the level 40s stuff. Um, you know what really fucked me up. I'll be honest
It
with
was the
you.
three
I
keys
really
quest.
it wasn't actually the three keys. That quest did fuck me up a lot, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
I think that
But
was
that's
the
just
first thing
because
that hurt the momentum of the group, though, for sure.
yeah. Uh, but to me, to after that, after I finished that quest, I was actually fine. The thing that really messed me up was there was like 2 or 3 days when no one was playing, and I was the only one online at one point.
Well,
And I
you were
tried to do
off, and
some
we were all working, right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I was trying to do something solo, and I I was like, this game is not as fun as I thought solo. Um, and it's not the game's fault; it's the population. I feel like if there were more people running around, I could have got a lot more stuff done.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Unfortunately, there's just a lot of bots. I did try to reach out to some people. I did the LFG and everything like that. There's just a lot of bots,
Yeah,
and
no,
everything.
there's a lot of bots. It's a
Yeah.
bad problem.
So I actually enjoyed the game a lot, but then when I got to that's where my burnout started to hit. So I stopped playing the game because I was like, I don't want the burnout to hit. So I started playing other games and stuff like that, which was to my detriment because now I'm into those other games. That's how I
Yeah.
discovered, Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Uh-huh.
Um, so
Well, so this is what I'll tell you. Okay, I've been trying to tell everybody this from the get go. You got to get to level 44, and you got to do Steel Rake, right? It's a solo
mhm,
dungeon, and it gives you an amazing gear set for level 44 for every class. Jet
yeah,
just got there the other night, and his character totally transformed. Like, he was like talking about it, like, dude, it's unbelievable how much more powerful I am after that compared to where I was before that. And that's what's true for you and Brad too. When you guys get
mhm.
there and you get that gear set, like, Montreal, you're gonna turn into like an uber tank, bro. Like, you're not gonna die anymore. Like, you're gonna be able to fight three mobs at a time, and you're gonna fucking murder them. Like, it's like the
So that's what
struggles that you guys have been running into won't be there after that.
That's where the 3 keys come into play, right?
Yes,
And the reason why
absolutely.
that 3 keys quest wasn't bad is because I saw the light. I actually saw the destination from that journey. When
Yeah,
we went into the fire temple, I had so much fucking fun. That
yeah.
was fun to me.
Mhm,
We were dungeon running. We did that legit
mhm.
like '08, like
Sure,
2005
sure.
fucking, you know,
EverQuest style, dude. Like,
EverQuest style
yeah,
dungeon, and it was fucking fun. We sometime we got wiped, and then we did it again, and we figured shit out.
yep,
It was really fun, especially just doing it with a group of boys, your boys that know and love. So it was like that was like really fun, and I was like, okay, I'm waiting for that again, and it's like
yeah.
when is it gonna come
No,
again? When
this
is it
is
gonna
the
come again?
problem.
Yeah.
So let me explain this for the audience and for you the situation with this game. So last year, Ion Classic comes out, and it is a very faithful, for the most part, it's pretty faithful to the original experience of the game. It is super grindy. I played it for 3 months, and I only got to level 44. What they've done in the interim, in the year since, your year and a half since that I last played, is they brought in all this fast track shit into the game so that the level 1 through 50 experience is super fast. They made all the campaign quests basically give you a full fucking level whenever you do them. So you're like leveling like at breakneck speed. So what this does for the game, unfortunately, the game is not balanced or designed for the speed of leveling. It's designed around the idea that you're going to be grinding for a long time. So you're going to have to invest in the gear you get because you're going to be wearing it for several levels, which is going to take you a week plus probably to get, even in the 20s. Like it's a long grind, right? So that's what the game's designed for. So when we're playing the game now, you're getting gear at such a rapid clip that there is no value in investing in mana stones or anything like that in it. So your character's not at the power level they're supposed to actually be at for your level as a result. And then the low population issues compound this because there's no one at low level doing anything. So all the low level gear on the broker, the low level mana stones are
Mm,
severely overpriced, and you can't make any money because you're not grinding anything. You're just doing campaign quests that give you nothing. Like they give you garbage that gives you no money. So you're like they've like I understand why they did what they did because they want to get people to level 50 and that's where the game really starts now. But dude, the problem with it is just the rest of the game around it wasn't fixed to accommodate that. So you have no influx of cash. Jet's starting to figure it out. Like he's at the point where he's like making his own money. He hasn't like, dude, he's got millions of Kina. He spent like 10 million Kina yesterday. I'm like, dude, where did all this money come from, bro? Like, what the fuck? But he's making money. Like he's doing shit and like going killing enemies and they're dropping stuff and he's putting it on the broker and it's selling. Like so he's making cash. The thing is, before that, you're not fighting enemies really, so you're not getting any drops. You're not putting anything on the broker. Like you're just broke. Like you guys have like a few 100,000 Kina, which is nothing. It's like chump change. I've literally had to give you guys money. Because like you can't make enough to sufficiently fund your own character. So they've like neutered they've like ruined the leveling experience to me in that regard, and it really sucks because it was fun last year. Even though it was grindy, I still enjoyed it because it felt good as you leveled. Like you felt the power spikes with your character. Now you're not feeling the power spikes because you're just getting gear and you're not putting mana stones in it or anything like that. So that's my point about Steel Rake. That's the point where the game to me now starts, really.
okay.
So when you hit 42, you want to probably try to run Steel Rake twice. That'll get you a full gear set, gold gear set out of that. And that's what you invest in. That's what you put the mana stone sockets in, and you fully invest in that. You start enchanting it. That will carry you probably all the way through 55 for gear. That's why you want to invest in it because I'm still wearing it now on my assassin at 53. So that's the thing I've been trying to get you guys to, because if we can just get there and you guys can get the gear, man, we're gonna blast through the 40s. You guys are gonna be 49, 50 in no time, and we're gonna be running dungeons at that point. The way we were running Fire Temple, like we're just gonna be running dungeons, dude. That's the reason I wanted us to run Fire Temple a couple times. I wanted you guys to get that taste of that experience, because
Mhm.
we didn't have to do Fire Temple. We needed to do it once for the campaign quest, but that was really it. I just wanted you guys to get a feel though for what the game's going to feel like when we're actually doing like meaningful hard content And there's plenty of that. Once you guys hit 48, 49, we can start running dungeons exclusively if you want. Like we could just do that all day, you know? So that's like where we need to get, and we're not far off really. Like
Yeah, we're not.
we need to get you
I
and
just gotta
Brad to
get back into it.
42. Yeah, we need to get you and
Yeah.
Brad to 42. And then I think and once you guys do Steel Rake, which should be okay, maybe a little tough, but hopefully you'll be able to get through it. Once you can get through it and get that gear, dude, we're done. We're off to the races, I feel like at that point. So, we're not far away from it. You're like 39, right? I think.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
Brad's 38, maybe. So we just need to do a couple campaign quests, which we have plenty of to do, all of us. So I really only think we need 1 or 2 sessions to get where I'm talking about, and I'm saying like 3 hour sessions, like a couple 3 hour sessions, and we'll be there, pretty much. So the thing is with Brad, he's like done, like he doesn't want to play unless you're on and we're all on, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the point he's at, which is like kind of fucking annoying, but it is what it is. It's fine. So to your point, you just got to get back on. We're down to play. Jet will come back and help, like, you know, and having him at high level will make everything easier. So, you know, I think we're okay. You just gotta play and we'll get there, you know. And then once we're in 50 though, once you get to Gelkmaros, like, everything opens up really at that point. So we're like PvP opens up, and we're doing like real dungeons that have end game gear, you know, dropping out of them and stuff. And yeah, so
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna get back into it. It's just one of those periods and I'm like, all right, I need to calm down real quick.
no, yeah, you know, honestly, it's fine. I think it's a good thing probably that you stopped. I'd rather you do that and not get burnt out. Because like I kind of want Andy to catch up too, you know. Because once we have him, we have five, and I think we're pretty good. Like we could probably take on most content at that point with the five of us. So
Okay.
yeah. But
Yeah, but
overall, like
that's
I guess on the rest of the game though, like how do you feel though, like in terms of like mechanical combat and the gearing system and all that?
yeah, I like the weaving system. I'm not a fan of. Well, I think this is just a population thing because I understand what you're saying when the situation arose. I'm not a fan of certain skills being locked behind
Yes.
being dropped,
Yeah.
or droppables, or if that's a word.
Yeah.
Long story short, some skills there's an actual item you have to get for it to learn that skill, and some of the skills are like very
Yeah.
detrimental to your character. Now, this wouldn't be an issue if there were thousands of people playing the game, but unfortunately, that's not the case in this one. So when a skill that I need drops and someone has it on the market, they inflate the price to absurd numbers,
Yeah.
and I have to beg Justin to buy it, or I have to grind for that Kina.
You didn't beg
Uh,
for anything. I just did it because I think the thing is I've been trying hard to smooth this experience out for you guys as best I can.
yeah,
You know, I'm not I wasn't making myself broke to do it, but you know, I could feel in that moment with you, like I understood your frustration because you have no way to make money. You don't know how to make money. And this thing feels like it is a million light years away from you. Like it would take you days and days and days to get the money to fucking buy that thing, you know?
yeah,
So I was like, you know what? This is such an important skill for your character because it really is. Like
yeah. It
I just
changed the whole game for me.
yeah, I got it
Like,
for I got it for you, and honestly, it was totally I think it was totally the right call, but it is frustrating that the game gives you no mechanism to get those outside of drops, and
yeah,
the way the game works, you can't go grind that at high level because if you're over a certain level threshold over the enemies you're killing, they don't drop loot. So a level 20 stigma you can't go get as a level 55. You have to make another character to go get that stigma, meaning that they're super fucking rare. There's very few of them even out there. We're lucky there was one on the broker at all, you know? So that's it's like that's the shitty situation the game is currently in my opinion. And it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. We're kind of beyond it. Once you start making money, like really making your own money, in Kina and stuff, you'll just be able to buy that shit. 7 million is not a lot.
yeah,
You'll be fine. It's so there's some other ones though that cost like 50 million. That's where it's like I'm lucky I'm playing a class that doesn't really have any like that. So Or at least I bought the ones that are expensive way before they got expensive. So I was lucky in that regard. But yeah, once you get higher level, making money is easy. Once you're higher level, I'm leveling right now, and I've made like 60 million kina in the last like week. You know, just killing mobs and putting stuff on the broker that I got off drops. So
Mhm. Yeah, so that's my experience with Ion. I like it though, especially for like a old 2008,
hmm
2009 ish game. I think is really. I think at the time, to be honest with you, that was probably kind of revolutionary. The weaving thing,
yeah,
uh,
the
because it
PvP
was
too. I
still
I I still feel the PvP is strong. It's just yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
because I mean because it kind of reminds me of like Final Fantasy 14, the weaving thing. Because you in Final Fantasy 14, especially for tanks, a lot of our attacks are connecting like that. You have to
Mm.
weave and then
Yeah, they're
other
chain. They're
stuff
more
like
like
that.
chain skills. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So in between the chain skills, you have to auto attack to maximize your DPS. And when you told me to do that with the tank, I was like, okay, that's just like me tanking in Final Fantasy 14. So I
yep,
don't know, it's pretty cool.
yep,
I like the whole flying thing and everything like that. I think the game overall like is really cool. It's just one of those things where I just wish there were more people playing it because we can get the full experience of it. But I like the group that we're playing with now. I wish
yeah.
it was like I can get the whole full PvP experience where I'm like in a zone trying to farm and like some fucking Ilios
Oh,
walk up
you'll
on me
get
and try
there.
to
No,
jump
no,
me.
you will get there. Don't worry. It's happened to me.
Okay.
I've been ganked. Like they're out there. It's just not. It's not till you hit 51 and you're 50 and you go to Gelkmaros, the expansion zones. Like before that, no one's rifting anymore, as far as I can tell. Like, so yeah, when we get there, PvP will become a very real component of our gameplay. Like we are gonna need to start going to fortress sieges, getting medals, doing like the PvP arenas if we can, things like that, getting abyss points in whatever fashion we can do that in. So there's a lot of methods to there's a lot of gameplay that you're not experiencing right now too that will become a reality once you hit 50, 51.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
So yeah, you just gotta get there. Okay. Yeah. Enough about Ion. What else? What else you played?
So we're playing League of Legends. I mean, not too much to say. I like that we're playing it, and y'all seem to enjoy it now. I mean, there are some issues, but that's just I'm not going to harp on that. That's just meta shit. That's MOBA shit. Meta is probably going to pass within the next couple months.
Yeah.
Then there'll be another meta that we get
Yep.
annoyed with.
And it'll be
So
annoying, and we got to
yeah,
play around it. I think we need to figure out our strategies for dealing with it.
yep.
And I think the biggest. I mean, I'm in a transitionary phase right now. I'm trying to learn other characters that aren't Varus, so there is some growing pains with that, where I don't play a certain character particularly well for a few games. I think I'm at the point like Varus. I'm super comfortable. I'm good with him. I think any game I play with him, I will be competitive in my lane for the most part.
Hmm.
Um, Tristana. Tristana's weird actually. Like she's tough. She's actually not an easy ADC to play. I feel like
Yeah, she's
um,
not.
she does not do a lot of damage on her own early in the game. Like she really needs items to get online. Um,
Yeah,
and she needs more than one to get online. Like Varus really just needs his shield bow and his boots, and he's good. He starts shredding people. But yeah, Tristana is not like that in my opinion. I just feel like she's pretty underpowered to get that like second item. But and then Jin, I'm starting to get Jin. I think like the last couple times I played him were much better than earlier on. I'm not like carrying the team or anything like that, but I'm not a detriment either though, at least that's how I feel at least. So I'm gonna keep playing him. He's a fun character. I do need to start looking more into him and understanding how he can be a tank buster, so that I can use him in more situations than I have been. Because I've really only been using him against squishy teams, but from talking to you guys and doing my own research, it actually sounds like apparently Jin's like one of the best ADCs in the game right now. And I'm like, how does that work if he doesn't deal with tanks? So there must be ways for him to deal with tanks, and I just need to find out like what item compositions those are.
Yeah, he can CC. I think his CC is the really because when you fight in a tank in League of Legends or in MOBAs in general, you know that CC is like one of the best tools to
Yes,
handle a tank.
absolutely.
So
Yep.
he can do self peel. He can peel for himself.
Yeah.
They usually tell you if you're trying to learn ADC, like you'll learn this if you watch videos on League of Legends and stuff like that, especially ADC role. They'll tell you the top champions to try to learn to, or not to learn, but if you're good at it, but you don't want to depend on your support, is like Jin, Kate, and maybe to a certain extent,
Yeah.
Ash and Tristana because they can peel for themselves and they can get themselves out of a lot of situations.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I,
which is
I,
true.
I
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
so I don't know. I think for me, like I don't like I've been through this meta before. I don't like the tank meta because it's easy for me, to be honest with you. It's extremely boring. I can pick Rammus and I can literally win every game. I pick every game we played with if I picked
Yeah,
Warwick,
yeah,
Rammus, or even Kane, I think we won all those
most
games.
of
And if I
those,
pick
yeah.
if I pick anyone else, then it's like a toss up where we just
Echo
lose.
or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So because I like playing like the assassin junglers because they're really skillful, but that's
yeah.
not the meta right now. The meta is like
They're
farm,
not
get
strong
big.
enough. Yeah, they're not strong enough to
Yeah,
survive enough time to do damage, you know?
yeah. So
Yeah, no, it's just heart steal. That item is a problem, I think.
yeah,
It's too much of a power spike, dude. I was looking at it and it's raw stats. It's like 800 health it gives you, which is what the fuck are you talking about, dude? 800 health? That's
I
like
didn't know
that's
you
like
gives you 800
that's
health,
over half of somebody's health probably by the time they get it, you know? It's like, what the hell?
and then you're
So
stacking more health items on top of
yeah,
that.
and then,
Like,
dude, well, that item then gives percent health to every item you buy after that, and it's like, what the hell, dude? Like they like way overtuned that thing. I don't like I don't get it, but I yeah I don't know. I think is though the group has been like kind of we're all kind of branching out a little bit on characters we don't normally play. You
mhm,
included too sometimes. And I think that's part of the struggles we're having right now. We're just trying to learn some characters, you know. Like it's gonna happen. Like I'm not good at most characters yet besides Varus, so I gotta learn because I think that's the thing I want to give League a little credit here. Is positioning in League is so important. It's fucking nuts, dude. Like there's so many fights where if I'm in the wrong spot early on and I let myself get caught as the ADC, the fight's over. Like we lost, you know.
yeah,
And that's my fault, and I literally lost the team the fight because I'm not alive to do damage, you know. And like that has happened plenty of times as every character I play, and it's something that like I'm trying real hard to be very cognizant of where I am at all times, you know, and like where enemies are, where enemies might be relative to where we are. And
mhm,
even when I can see everybody where I'm standing, you know, and understanding how fast people can close the gap of that distance is it's such an important part to the role that it's like that's the part I'm really trying to get better at. I'm good with it with certain characters, and with Varus I can like shackle somebody if they come at me, you know, and then just murder them, right?
yeah,
But not every character has that tool, so or if they do have it, it's a little bit more obtuse than Varus, you know, where it's like Jin, you need to Jin's similar, but you know you got to hit that, you have to hit that straight line shot with him, and then with like Tristana, she doesn't have one like that. She's more of a you need to get away from anybody that chases you with her and then turn around and fire, you know? So it's like a little bit of a different strategy there. And then like Caitlyn is her lockdown is super awkward to use, you know, it doesn't really work that well in general. So it's it's every character kind of has different positioning rules from to me, at least from what I've experienced so far. And I think that's the piece that I'm struggling the most with, is figuring that out. So I'm trying to get better at that, but
yeah.
it's coming to me. I'm
Well, yeah,
figuring it
overall, I'm glad like everybody's liking the game. I mean, we have our upsets, but we do when we do win, and we win a lot. Actually, it sounds like we lose all the time, but we actually win a lot. It's just when we lose hard. But when we win like
we
consecutively.
win
So
hard too. That's
yeah,
the thing. We've had games where we just dominate, dude. It's embarrassing. Like,
yeah,
but we've had some really frustrating games. There was a game last week that we played where I think I went like 25 and like 3 or something with Varys, and we lost. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck. Like, I'm like, how? It's like, but part of it is probably because I got all the kills and like the rest of the team didn't get shit. So I had all the fucking money, and everybody couldn't get items. So it's like, I mean, that's some of that's luck, it wasn't intentional, but yeah, it's like, so it's interesting. I am enjoying the game. I am like pretty much every night now. I'm like pretty much down for League if you guys want to get on. It's like,
Yeah.
uh, I think everybody's kind of, I think we're all having our own fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next game I've been playing was Division 2. So not
That's
really too much to
random, dude.
say.
That's random.
Yeah,
What the
yeah.
hell?
And I'm not gonna harp on it too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I weird thing. I just had a real itching to play like a mindless shooter type game where
Mhm.
I can like grind out stuff. And Division 2 came up. I remember me and you played it. Me, you, and Jet played it. And we were having some fun with it. It just wasn't the content wasn't there. Um, but obviously it's been like 4 or 5 years, so I came back to it. That's where I got that deal to join PlayStation Extra, right? Yeah, PlayStation
Oh,
Extra
really? Okay.
for $25 because you can get the Division free.
Oh, okay.
Uh, so I joined it for a year. So in fucking November it will be renewed. So that's why I said like 11 months, 10 or 11 months or whatever. And it was $25. So yeah, that's why I did that. I did check their catalog. They have some good catalogs for the extra, but the premiere is like where you want to be at, to be honest. If you want to play the classics, some of the
Yeah.
classics.
Yeah.
Um,
Which they actually started adding to that list lately, so,
yeah.
which they
It's
hadn't
actually it's
for a while.
it's pretty decent right now, to be honest with you, if you really want to dive into it. And a lot of the games you don't have to stream, you can play it directly on your PlayStation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which they did not advertise it like that, to be honest with you. But yeah, so Division I've been playing that. It's been okay. Like it's a nice little game. If I had a hard day at work, I can just come home. I have to turn on my brain. I can just mindlessly shoot, grind, get my little world tiers up, get more gear, and then go back in there. Um, Xenoblade Chronicles X. I forgot how frustrating this game is as far as learning the game over again.
Yeah.
Uh, like the soul voices thing, I finally got it back and understood them again. I remember when I first played it, I was really turned off because I didn't know how to heal myself. But now that I understand the soul voices and everything like that again, the game started to pick up. The combat speeds picking up and everything. It's just maneuvering the world and everything. I remember that was my biggest gripe with Xenoblade Chronicles X is like the placement of certain monsters in the world relative to your level and where you need to go. You'll be like level 12, and sometimes there'd be like level 28 monsters, and those monsters will
Mhm.
fucking decimate you if you run across them and shit. But yeah, it's a fun game. The story is not the best. But I'm not playing it for the story. I'm playing it for the combat and the end game and everything like that. So uh that's what I like. I just needed a JRPG in my life, and that's the one
Well,
I'm picking with.
yeah, that's a game, dude. I full completed that game on Wii U, and I did everything except one boss. Like one boss, which is like the final hard ass, like maximum boss in the game. I could never beat it. It was so difficult. So if I ever go back and play this game again, I'm going to beat that fucking boss. Like I'm just saying that right now. Like I 99.99% of that game, and it sticks with me to this day. So
No, one thing I did forget about the game, and I know you're giving me shit for it. I forgot how good the fucking music is in this game. Like this is that game. Like out of all the Xenoblades, Chronicles, in my opinion, bro, has like a
Mhm.
grade A soundtrack. That shit is
Well,
like that shit
dude,
hits.
this I'm gonna tell you why. This is Hiroyuki Sawano, bro. Like he did Attack on Titan. He's done a bunch of the Xenoblade games. Like this guy is one of the best fucking composers out there. Like his
Yeah, he's the
his
goat. He's the
his
goat.
music insane. I love his fucking style, dude. Like I love it. It's like if you're a big fan of Attack on Titan, I sincerely recommend you go play Xenoblade Chronicles X however you can and listen to the sound, or just go listen to the soundtrack on YouTube. Fuck it. Yeah, just go
Yeah,
listen to
yeah.
the soundtrack on YouTube. You will hear Attack on Titan in that soundtrack all over the place. Like it's all over it. Like his style is so distinctive for me, and I love it. Like I love it. And that is one thing about X that has always annoyed me is people sleep so hard on the soundtrack, and the soundtrack is amazing. And I just like hearing you play this game again, like you talking about it, I'm like, I want to play it, dude. And I'm like, because the thing is, I made this reference to the Discord is that game is the Fantasy Star game that I always fucking wanted ever since I played Fantasy Star Online 2 on GameCube.
Mhm.
You know, that is Xenoblade Chronicles X. It literally is like a single player Fantasy Star game, and it's fucking awesome. Like from back to front. You know, like you said, the story is whatever, but I don't care that much. It's not really that important. It's like it's really not. It doesn't take away from the game that much. Like ultimately,
There's just so much stuff to do in the game. It's
yeah,
almost like a base builder type game.
yeah,
Almost like I don't know if you guys play like Dark Cloud or something like that. Like you're rebuilding your base and then you got to go out and do certain stuff and gather certain materials, you fighting these monsters and it's just I don't know, it's just like a really cool game to play. I really
mhm,
wish I could play online again. But yeah, I think it's just a really cool game to play and people
yeah,
should give it a
yeah,
chance and stuff.
yep,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's all I've been playing, so
Okay, well, I don't have much to add. We talked about everything I'm playing: Ion Classic and Ion Classic and League of Legends. Other than that, it's been Genshin Impact for the most part. I'm just not. I just haven't been in a single player mood, man. I just want to kind of hang out in the Discord, hang with the boys, play some League or Ion or whatever the fuck, and I'm filling the gaps with Genshin Impact. Really, like that's kind of where I'm at right now. So
mhm,
that probably is about to change here in the near future because Fire Emblem Engage is coming out in 8 days. So I'm I have a vacation coming up in 2 weeks. So like it starts the day that that game comes out. So I'm thinking I'm going to buy that and play that pretty hard that week. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Um so yeah, that's kind of my plan right now. But yeah, otherwise I'm not really playing anything else of note. So um
alright.
all right, let's get into the news then. We got a lot of news. We haven't talked about news in 3 weeks, so we've got a lot to talk about here to catch up on. So the first thing that happened, or this, I mean, these all happened in different orders. We're just talking about them in this order, but um, this happened early in January. Is the ZeniMax QA workers from ZeniMax have formed a union. So this is the second AAA gaming union to happen, and it's again with QA staff like it was at Raven. But this one played out differently than the Raven one, which is interesting because Microsoft owns ZeniMax. They don't own Activision yet, but they're working on that. This time, this was instantaneously recognized by Microsoft. There was no fight at all. They just recognized the union and moved on, moved along with their day, which is the total polar opposite of the way Activision Blizzard handled it with Raven, where they were fighting it tooth and nail as far as they could, to make sure it didn't happen. So, which is interesting because two different approaches, but Microsoft's tangentially involved with both, in different
Mhm.
ways. So, I mean, not much to say here, Montreal. Do you have any comments on this one?
No, I'm glad more of the country in general, not to be political or anything, but fuck it, I will be political in this shit. I'm glad more of the country is going more pro union. I come from a pro union state. Um, so that's all we used to do. That's all
Mm-hmm.
we knew in Michigan was being a part of unions. And I'm glad like the workers are starting to because I think even Amazon,
Yep.
the ALU, they just formed their thing. I mean, I don't know. A lot of these people work really hard, and I just don't want to see them get shitted on and everything like that. So yeah, I'm glad. I may talk shit about developers and stuff like that, but I'm mainly talking about upper management because like that's how you manage the projects and stuff like that. Like it does
Mm-hmm.
come from them. I mean, both of us being, I'm not really a manager, but I have to understand when I point certain teams to do certain things on job sites for my career and stuff like that, that it's all up to my planning, and I'm pretty sure you have the same experience
Mhm.
with you running your team.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm happy that this is working. I'm glad this is becoming a thing. We gotta thank BioWare. We gotta thank Mass Effect, man. Thanks, man, because without that BioWare magic and Jason Schreier breaking that case or that report,
Multiple
we wouldn't
cases over the years.
multiple cases. Yeah, we wouldn't have had this. So
I do
I'm glad
think
it's happening.
I will say I do think, like, legitimately he has had an influence on these things. It
Hmm.
is an agenda of his for sure, and it annoys me actually that he, like, pushes it so much in his news articles, but I will say I think he has had an impact on the industry in that regard because I think people are less scared to try this than they used to be. I think developers were very submissive along like 10 years ago or longer, where
Hmm.
they didn't feel like they could fight back against their company because they could just get let go, and then they get fucking blacklisted or something, or fuck, they have to go find another job in a totally different part of the country and move, and they don't want to deal with all that. And this is slowly like turned. And I think I also want to give Microsoft credit here too, because they've changed their approach recently with this. And they're not like necessarily supporting unions, but they are allowing employees to explore this on their own and make the decision themselves if they want to join a union or not. And that is not something a lot of companies as big as Microsoft really do commonly. Like, a lot of companies are just like, unions are bad. If you talk about unions, you're fucking gonna get fired, like.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that is really common out there in corporate America. So just want to give Microsoft a little kudos. But this is, I mean, it's worth noting. I expect to see this more probably throughout the industry as well, as these pop up, because we had another one pop up in Europe, I think, with one of Embracer Group's divisions a
okay.
couple months ago too. So they're happening, and I just think in this industry they're ultimately going to be necessary, because I don't think we can trust most of these corporate entities to treat their employees right. They've
Well,
proven that over and over again.
exactly, and I think the big issue is that people were concerned about. I mean, if you want to be a dick, but people are like, well, video games are going to take longer to come out, and that may be true until we find a a middle ground. But I think that middle ground just comes from, like you said earlier today, smaller scope and better planning. Like that's what the middle ground
And that
is.
might be
We
a
don't need.
necessity if you're going to work with union represented developers.
Yeah,
So it
exactly,
might
because you
work
can't.
itself out.
Yeah, because you have to. First of all, I feel like the developers themselves would give more time to the game or give better quality time to it. And they get to go home to their families at night, Um, and on top of that, like, yeah, the game may take longer, but we'll have a quality game out of that. And on top of that, like, we won't have these inflated fucking maybe we won't have these inflated fucking budgets and everything of that nature. So I don't know. I think it's a win all around. It is going to take some time to get to where we need to find that middle ground. But once we do, I think gaming will be in a good spot.
Mhm. All right, fair enough. Let's move on. I can't wait to talk about this story. I'm like chomping at the bit right now. All right, we don't talk about Madden much on the show anymore because we've beaten a dead horse, right? But
Yeah.
EA, EA and Madden gave us a gem over the holiday break, and here it is. So over the break, there was late in December, there was an incident with EA's Madden servers, and there was a data transfer error, is what they said, that caused a whole bunch of franchise mode save files to get corrupted on the EA servers, and they do not work anymore. You cannot play them. Like, if your file got corrupted, you don't have your franchise mode anymore. You have to start over from scratch. So there was something going on here, and Montreal and I both work in technology, so maybe we could speak to this a little bit. What might have happened here is they were doing something with the Madden servers, and anybody who logged in during that work, they're the ones who got their files corrupted. So it wasn't 100% of people. If you didn't log in during the hours that this was going on, you're totally fine. Your file didn't get impacted. You're good. So which is bizarre because in technology, you don't do work on shit like that in what we would call production when your users can still access it that would impact them in that way. Like you would take shit down. You would take the shit down for maintenance. Like what the fuck were they doing here, dude? Like this is like amateur hour to me. Like I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to think for our company. I think we would just probably tell everybody to log off, or our system admin will put in some kind of implementation to where you can't log on
Or you
anymore.
would do it overnight.
Yeah, I mean, even if you do it overnight, there may be some weirdo that wants to
But
wants to
no,
log
okay.
in.
But the thing is,
Yeah,
this is like common. Think about like an MMO, right? Or like Destiny, for instance. They have weekly maintenance
yeah,
windows. That is super common in technology. Like, how could you do this? Like, I don't understand. You know,
yeah.
I'm severely puzzled by that aspect of the story. Like,
This is the issue with all digital future. We have a really good cloud system in my job, but even still, like if that cloud system goes down, then no one can work. You know, even we have
right.
like remote tools linked to the cloud and everything. So it's like I don't know. This is the problem with the all digital future. I guarantee you this story be huge. Unfortunately, this is franchise mode, which is not played as often as other modes of in Madden.
Mhm.
But I guarantee you, like you said earlier before the pod, like if this was like your Destiny characters, your
What?
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 14
Oh my
characters,
god, dude.
uh, if
Holy
this
shit.
was
Yeah.
like even your Madden Ultimate teams and all this shit like that, your
Oh
My
no,
Player
that
or
would be
anything,
insane, dude, if they
th-
lost people's Madden Ultimate Team. Because there's money there, you know? Imagine,
yeah,
like no, but yeah, like, dude, the thing is with this, right? This is franchise mode. So this game's only been out since August. So it's not like that terrible. I mean, I'm sure it hurts a lot if you've been playing since then on the same franchise because these things can go on forever and ever and ever, right? Like there's no end point for them. But yeah, imagine Destiny, right? You have a 5-6 years investment in your character and they lost your character and they can't get it back. Like clearly they had some backup issues here as well, you know, like where backups weren't working properly or weren't running or like weren't saving their data or backing up their data. But the other thing here that I don't understand, why is there not a local copy of your save file on your PlayStation?
I was just gonna
What the
ask that
fuck?
question. Did they not allow it?
I don't
It's only
know.
online.
Dude, I don't know. And this is where everybody talks about the cloud. The cloud has been like a hot thing for so long now, right? And this is this is a prime example of where it's not all it's cracked up to be, dude. Like the cloud is still physical. It exists. Like these are real devices like that need to have maintenance, that need to be replaced. Like just because the cloud is just a bunch of fucking servers together, you know, that work in tandem in a cluster. Like so they can fail. And if they fail in a certain way and you can't recover them, guess what? You're fucked. All the data's gone. Like it's like that can happen. It doesn't happen that much because you can design these things in such a way where that's very, 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 very unlikely. But if you have an incompetent company like EA, for instance, apparently, you don't design it well enough and it something goes wrong and you lose all this data. It's like so that's it's I don't know. This is wild. I can't believe this. Like I heard about this story and I was like, "What? Like what? Dude, that's crazy." You know? Cuz you're right. Going back to Destiny. If this happened to Destiny 2, Bungie would be dead. Dead. That game would be over with. Like everybody would quit. Those people who lost their characters would never play a Bungie game again. Straight up.
40%. That's a large number. And the window was fucking large. 2:45 to 12:45 p.m. the next day. That's a large ass window. Like
Wow, that's almost 24 hours. Holy shit, that's crazy.
yeah,
What the
if you
hell?
read the article, it said to be clear, if you didn't try to play franchise between 2:45 Eastern on Wednesday the 28th December of 20th of December to 12:45 p.m. Eastern on Thursday 29th of December, you should be fine. That's bro. Are you serious? That's
It's
22 hours.
22 hours. What the hell, dude? What were they doing? I want to know what they were doing. Like, what was the work being done? You know, like, what the fuck, man? That's crazy. It probably there must have been some kind of leak or something, like a data leak,
There had to be.
and it just impacted the whole cluster. Like, there's
Oh,
no other
man.
explanation. I don't know. I mean, they're never gonna tell us, but we could speculate all day, but it's wild. Like, this is. I mean, look, guys, like, this is
And this is not a push at Madden. This is just, to me,
it's
this
in
is
general,
like,
right? It
in
happened to
general, yeah.
Madden.
It
Madden's the
happened
one
to
that it
Madden.
happened to, but yeah, this is an
Like,
in general just kind of a cautious tale. You know, is man, this could
dude,
happen.
because like, okay, one can I was gonna argue like, well, people were at work during that time, but some people come home and they just blow steam. Oh, I'm gonna play franchise mode, do a couple of trades here and there, and then go to bed, whatever. Because that's
Mhm.
still
Yeah,
after work. And
right.
then God forbid you're off work like me. You're off that week. Like you played the
Yeah, but
game.
no, but dude, the window was so large, right? That guy could have come home and played the game at night, and then he goes to work the next day, and then he comes home and his files corrupted, his save files corrupted, and he's like, "Yo, what's going on, bro? What the fuck? Are you serious? I'm in my like 2045 Cardinals franchise mode. Like, what? Dude? I played 22 years of this franchise mode, and you just lost it? Like, what? What are you talking about? Like, dude, that
They just
fucking would be insane."
they're so lucky. This is like only a small percentage of people play franchise
Nope,
mode, and I
and
feel bad for those people.
bro, and they're gonna sell 10 million copies of Madden next year. No repercussions. People are just gonna get over this, you know.
I
But
didn't hear nothing about this, by the way. That's
me either,
insane.
dude. I heard it on a podcast, and I was like, "Yo, what?" So I like went and looked into it, and yeah, it's fucking crazy, dude.
Mistakes do happen. Like that's what they said in the article. Mistakes do happen. And at the very least, EA Sports is being fairly open and honest about what occurred in this
I don't think
instance.
they're being open and honest. I mean, I guess they are like hopping to it, like they're saying that it's their fault. So I guess that is fair, but at the same time, bro, this is like this is the point we were trying to make about design, right? Why is there not a backup locally on your console? That's crazy. Like, I didn't even know some of these games did that, you know?
Yeah, I know, Matt. I know the sports games are notorious for like you cannot save on your console.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's bad. That's bad. That's bad design.
yeah,
Um
I know my player was like that. Like you can have an offline version of your my player, but it's some weird. I don't know if it's that way now, but when they first implemented it, it was almost like having two versions of your my player.
mhm,
So if God forbid if you ever did go offline and then you played the game and then you try to go back online, you couldn't play that version of your my player. It had to
mhm.
use the one that was on the cloud. So
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Well, not much more to say there, but we
yeah.
wanted to talk about it because I mean, we've been talking about
Well,
digital
this is the
future,
whole
and
you
yeah.
you remember this was the whole thing, and it's not just with like sports games in general, but this was the whole thing with the DRM thing with Xbox. Remember that whole
Mhm.
debacle when Xbox One first came out, and
Yeah.
people were like the
No.
DRM shit and everything like that. That's what this is what those people were kind of fighting against, like
Mhm.
situations like this. So yeah,
Yep. All right. Well, let us move on to our next story. So at CES this year, Sony had a actually had a big presence there, and they revealed a new accessibility controller called Project Leonardo, and it is a kind of a circular controller. I mean, I definitely recommend going looking at this for yourself, but all the buttons are kind of on the outside. And apparently, this is like configurable. So, like, you can change the layout of the buttons and the placement of the buttons per the configuration that you want. So, this is intended for people that are impaired in some way physically. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't. There's not a lot to say here, I guess, but it is a few years after Microsoft had a similar thing with theirs. Microsoft's had one of these for a few years now, at least. Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, it comes with. I mean, dude, there's a whole bunch of buttons that you can configure and change their placement of. So it also has software configurations as well. So yeah, Montreal, any thoughts on this one?
No, I'm not really. I think it's really cool that they're. Uh, didn't Sony allow the Microsoft version of it to be used in their consoles? I would be
I
pretty
think they
sure that
did.
they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
I think they did.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad they're working on their own version as well. I think the more people that play video games, the better.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that companies aren't leaving out disabled gamers and everything like that.
Hmm.
I'm already seen we already seen people beat Sekiro and Dark Souls and everything like that with like no hands and feet and stuff like that. And they're like gods at the game. It's insane.
Hmm.
It's actually one person on League of Legends who's a challenger who plays with one arm. It's
Yeah.
insane. So I
That's
like it. I love it.
that is insane. That would
Yeah. So
be interesting to see. But yeah, no, the some elements of this too that this controller actually interestingly um may has functions that like outside of like for people who aren't handicapped in any way
mhm.
may be useful because you apparently like I'm reading this blog post here and it mentions that you can plug it into your dual sense or augment it says you can augment players can augment their dual sense controller with a Project Leonardo controller or use two Project Leonardo controllers on their own. A friend or family member can also assist by helping to control the player's game character with a DualSense controller or a second Project Leonardo controller. So, oh, interesting. So you can help somebody play with this controller.
Mm.
That's
That's
cool.
nice.
That's actually pretty
That's really
cool.
cool.
So yeah, I mean, this is the kind of accessibility we're talking about when we have that tired conversation around Dark Souls game difficulty, Like this is true
Yeah.
accessibility right here, right? And this is the kind of stuff that I think we all should encourage in the industry,
Yep.
right? So
100% agree.
I love this. I'm glad Sony's doing something like this finally as well, and giving options out there for people. So this is great. All right, moving on. So I talked about game cancellations earlier in the episode, and our next two stories are going to cover some of that. So, Ubisoft now in this last week has canceled three unannounced games, and they have delayed Skull and Bones once again another year. It is going to be coming out next fiscal year now instead of this coming one. So they said 2023 to 2024 fiscal, I believe, and dude, like there was a whole letter Yves Gilmont sent out, like, a bunch of emails internally, and there was he had some bullshit to say too, where he's like the ball is in your court or something like that to all the employees, like that they needed to save the fucking company or some shit. And man, I mean, I don't think we're big fans of Ubisoft on this show, but um
No, they fucked over. These are the number one culprits behind the next story that we're gonna get to. But yeah, um, yeah, they fucked over a lot of people with their stuff.
well, they
So
helped proliferate the yearly release model as well with Assassin's Creed, which is
yeah,
such a toxic product release model in the video game space, in my opinion. And I just, I mean, Ubisoft's weird, right? We've been talking about them for a few months now, right? I think we've had a couple conversations where we're like, what is going on over there, right? Like they keep making the same shit. They're just pooping out Assassin's Creed games and like Tom Clancy games, and it's just shooter, and like they don't have any like originality or anything like that, and it feels like that's coming back to bite them now. Really, like they're just not diversified enough as a game maker, I feel like. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like this seems dire. Like honestly, like they may be actually really legitimately in trouble as a publisher.
yeah, I agree. I feel like they lost their creativity. Somewhere around the Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed era. I mean, they used to have a lot of good quirky games and stuff like that,
Hmm.
along with these serious games, and then they just went hyper realism, and I don't know, it was just weird.
Hmm.
I just feel like every time I play one of their games, uh, I just want a little bit more creativity. It's a little bit too real. Like the division, for example, like you have
Yeah.
these abilities where you can, call out a drone and all that shit like that. And it's like that's cool,
Mhm.
but it's like, I mean, that's all I can do. Like even
Yeah.
the armor pieces you get and everything. So anyway, getting back to like, them, like I just feel like that's their issue. Their issue is, like you said, a lack of creativity. Uh and they just don't know how to do it. To be honest, the last creative, like, fun game I played with them, like, that was, like, off the wall fun was that Prince of Persia game, like, the 2008 version, which
Yeah.
is, like, a lot of people hated at the time, but I loved it
Mhm.
because it was, like, really cool and different.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's I don't know, man. I haven't really heard anything from Ubisoft. I mean, oh, and I'm sorry, and the Mario Raven Rabbits game. I every time I watch that game on YouTube or something, I want to go out and buy it because it just looks so fucking fun.
But then you
Like it
don't.
looks like then I don't. Um, I
Yeah.
just don't feel like they don't advertise it.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what it is about that game. I just can't really get into it like that, but
Same.
it
I've
just
had it.
looks really
I've had the
cool.
first one for years, dude, and I've never played it. You
Yeah,
know, and no, I yeah, I don't. They're just such a weird company because they talk about like they have investments in the fire right now, like a bunch of games they started working on like 4 years ago and they just haven't released yet. And that kind of speaks to our point earlier in the episode about AAA game scope being too large. And like I mentioned Assassin's Creed, like they are one of the number one culprits of like video game bloat. And
yeah.
you can see that you like they are kind of reaping what they've sown with that a little bit. It's just you make the same game over and over again and it's 150 hours of content and eventually people are just like, dude, I'm like, I'm good, I've eaten enough, I'm like fucking, I'm stuffed, bro. I'm stuffed on Assassin's Creed. Okay, can you give me something else? And they're like, no, have more Assassin's Creed. It's like, okay. Like, okay, I'm gonna go across the street to EA land now, and play something else because I feel like that might be what's happening to Ubisoft. There's like attrition in the interest in their franchises. And I think they just don't realize that, or maybe they do, but I they just don't seem to
The-
have any way out really right now.
they- they're just late to a lot of parties. Like, um,
They are a follower, definitely.
yeah, they used to be the innovators, but they're just like really late to a lot of stuff. Um, and I mean, they have games. Looking at their list of games they have some really cool, creative games or whatever the case may be. But I forgot about Immortals: Phoenix Rising. Like that was a fun game.
Yeah.
But it was just like it was just Zelda Breath of the Wild with better
Well,
combat.
and they didn't market it.
Yeah, and they didn't market it at all. And it got like 9 out of 10 for it's a fun ass game. It's a really good game. It's just like they really was pushing like, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and play fucking Rainbow Six. But even Rainbow Six Siege, like it's like that's not the Rainbow Six I grew up with. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
play multiplayer Rainbow Six all the fucking time.
Right.
I plan my maps out. It's just like all the games they had, they just diverged from where they were. And
Well, and
it's
they
just
like
like,
buried Splinter Cell despite the fact that
um,
people want it desperately.
exactly. They put Splinter Cell in fucking Ghost Recon. And it's like no one's asking for this. What happened to Good Beyond Good and Evil?
Mhm.
Like we're still waiting for the sequel to that game.
Right.
Like I even say like Prince of Persia was like one of those quirky games. Like the main character himself was quirky. It's just like everything they had though was like super serious. Tom Clancy, ooh, guns,
Shooters,
yeah,
shooters, shooters.
shooters, yeah, like that's what we need, and we gotta cater to this crowd, and that crowd has just never came for them, in my opinion. Like
Well,
Far
they
Cry
don't make,
6,
like, no offense to them, but they don't make shooters as well as like Call of Duty. Like as
they
good as
don't.
Call of Duty. So like what's their niche? I don't really know what the niche is with their games. Like I just like when I
It's
think about
open world.
shooters, I've never wanted to play any of their shooters really besides the Division. Like that's the one
Yeah,
exception.
it's open world games with nodes on them,
Yeah.
and they just need to change that model. Like, there's nothing wrong with an open world game, but you have to make the open world engaging. I just don't wanna go to a node and, like, when
It's like
I logged
it's a
into the division.
checkbox. They're checkbox games. Like they make
Yeah,
checkbox games, you know?
and you can definitely tell Division 2 has that model. When I logged into it to see, like, what
Absolutely.
kinda
It's an
achievements I get.
icon littered mess, you know?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, how do you take a franchise like Far Cry and you just turn it to what it was? Like, to the point where people are looking at, like, Far Cry 2 and, some instances 3, and they're like, "Man, this is a really good ass game." And the stuff that Far Cry 2 and 3 had aren't even present in Far Cry 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do your games get worse in quality? You know what I'm saying? I can't speak to the Assassin's Creed games because I really haven't played any Assassin's Creed past Odyssey. Or I did play Odyssey, but I didn't put enough into it. But the older Assassin's Creed games were like really good. And then they just
Right.
became, yearly releases and all this other stuff like that. And Ghost Recon was like pushing that tech. It was pushing the envelope as far as like espionage tech, Navy SEALs, and all that bullshit like that. And then it just fell off. And it's like, how do you let Call of Duty take that from you?
Mhm.
Like, I just don't understand it. It's just they just let stuff get taken away from them, and they don't fight for it. And
Yeah.
I think it's coming back to haunt them. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, we'll monitor this for sure. I mean, Ubisoft, I could see them getting purchased, like losing value and then getting purchased for a lower price. You know,
Yeah, I,
I
I
could
can see
totally
like
see that.
Sony. I can actually see Sony buying them because they kind of fit Sony's kind of mantra, in my
I don't,
opinion.
I don't think. I think it's more likely like I don't know, like
Embracer.
yeah, Embracer. I mean, Embracer's not even as big as Ubisoft though. Trying to think who would like Tencent. I could see that. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh god. Oh my
They'll
god.
come in and do it. Yeah. Let's hope not. But all right, let's move
Or
on.
the Saudi group, the Saudi.
Yeah. So, oh, fuck, Saudi Royal Fund.
Speaking of them, they bought. I think they're in process of buying WWE, so that's going to be fun.
Stick. That's fun. Well, I never watched that anyway, so but yeah, like Ubisoft when because remember the Saudi Royal Fund mentioned they were trying to buy a publisher for like what was it 13 billion or something? And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, who could that be? Embracer was our like the one I think I mentioned and Ubisoft maybe is in that sphere now? Maybe. So I don't know. We'll see. I hope not. That would be terrible. But all right, let's move on. We got more game cancellations to talk about. So this one, I think generally speaking, I would say we probably wouldn't care about much, but this does intersect with another hobby I have. So I want to talk about this. Jason Schreier reported from Bloomberg that Wizards of the Coast, who are the makers of Magic the Gathering, and they are also the owners of the Dungeons and Dragons IP. They have canceled at least 5 video games that they had in the works for the D&D universe in the upcoming years, and that has gutted basically almost everything they had in the works. I think the number I saw floating around was like they had 7 games in the works. One of those was Baldur's Gate 3, and then there were 6 I think unannounced ones. So 5 of those are potentially gone, just done. And Baldur's Gate 3 is probably fine. That will come out, I assume. But whatever the other game is, maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. But so I don't care about the game specifically because we don't know what any of them are. They weren't released. Like we had no trailers on anything that was canceled. Like we didn't even have an announcement on anything that was canceled actually. So the thing I want to talk about here is Wizards of the Coast and why this might have happened.
Hmm.
Because they're owned by Hasbro and they have been for a while. I think since 1999 they've been owned by Hasbro. And they're the makers of Magic the Gathering. And I kind of want to talk about them in regards to that because I think I think this may have happened well for many reasons probably. Maybe the games all sucked. Who knows? They probably maybe weren't good. They didn't like what they saw and they just canceled them all. Another thing is they're trying to save money, cut costs, something like that. because Hasbro right now is doing fucking miserable. Like I believe their share prices dropped 40% in
Oh God.
like the last year or something like that. And they have been getting really bad forecasting from like Bank of America and shit like that for their stock price because they are, you know, these investors are or these forecasters are saying that they're oversaturating the market with their products like Magic the Gathering, for instance. And as somebody who's in that community, I can attest to that reality that they are absolutely oversaturating the market with Magic the Gathering products. And they're doing this with other things as well. And I think it's affecting them in other areas, namely their video game business. I think they might be trying to save money here, which is why they're canceling these because D&D games have never ever really been that big in the games industry. Like they there's a history of them, especially in the CRPG genre, especially from the 90s and the early 2000s. There have been a ton of these games that are based on D&D and use the IP, but they've never been massive hits though. They've all been like kind of like cult games that were critically acclaimed or things like that. They've never had a financial just juggernaut, come out of these D&D games. So that may have been what Wizards was doing here. They're like, man, you know, like I just this might not be worth the investment ultimately because we're not going to make the money that EA's making on Madden or something like that, which is what they want. Hasbro has become such a greedy, money grubby fucking company, and I've watched this happen with Magic the Gathering in the 8 months that I've been playing that fucking game, where the decisions they make are absolutely unbelievable sometimes where they make these products that they are just trying to steal people's money basically like it's garbage. They're literally selling you trash and trying to market it in a fucking Magic the Gathering booster pack, and tell you that it's great and it's absolutely awful. Or they make these products that are like they have these weird things in them that just like they're not consumer friendly in the way they're designed, and
Yeah.
they only benefit Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, and they've been doing that consistently the last few years, and it's because that they're trying to hit these revenue goals where they're like doubling the revenue every fucking like 5 years or something like that. I think is what they want. They've been saying, or every like couple years or something like that. And by doing that, making that your goal, you have to go further and further and further in terms of short term nickel and diming people. And yeah, this story when I saw this, totally not surprised at all. I was not remotely surprised. I was like, yeah, this makes total sense. They're not like I feel like Wizards of the Coast right now is not a good company. And the idea that they would cancel all their games because either A, they're not going to make the money they want, B, they're like not in a good state and they don't think they can salvage them, or C, that they need to get out of Dodge, out of video games and focus on their physical games business. All three of those things could be true, and would none of them would surprise me in the slightest with this company. So I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that, get it out there. We're not a
Yeah, this
Magic show. We're not a board game show. But that its interest does intersect here with this story. So, any thoughts, Montrell?
Yeah, no, I was just looking at their stock prices. It dropped down 36% since the past year.
Yep.
So I don't know what's going on in Hasbro, but yeah, that definitely correlates to why they're trying to keep stuff down right now. So yeah, I think cutting games that some people really don't care about, which is
Mm-hmm.
bad to say, is the best call. And like, yeah, putting your best ones out in front, like Baldur's Gate and everything like that. So
Yep.
hopefully they bounce back.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm hoping they bounce back. They need to learn a lesson. No, I'm serious, dude. Like companies like this, they need to learn a fucking lesson. Like that you can't just milk your fucking communities dry to the point that they have nothing left and you've turned their hobby into a fucking husk,
Yeah.
that has no soul. Like that's what they're doing with Magic the Gathering, and they are going to ruin the game if they don't stop. You know, to the point that Magic the Gathering might not have a future. Like I'm not fucking with you. I'm totally serious, and like this kind of thing, like I'm kind of glad they're not seeing success because like they need a reality check. Like profit goals are totally unreasonable and they're gonna ruin their golden goose if they don't stop. And they're fucking headstrong too, because when Bank of America downgraded their stock and said, "Yeah, we think you're going to continue to go down because you're saturating the market," their fucking CEO comes out and is like, "There's no evidence that we're oversaturating the market." Like, bro, are you fucking with me right now? Like, are you really that like blind to reality? Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I don't know.
I've learned over the years that some CEOs, man, they're not in touch with
They
reality.
have no
Like
idea what's going on, dude. Like,
some of them just don't, man.
God,
It's hilarious.
no, and dude, this is what like we're a video game show, so I'm not gonna go too deep on this, but it is something that I've thought turned over my head so many times. How do these people get these jobs? I don't understand it. I don't fucking get it. They are idiots. They don't know their own business. They don't even know the names of the people that work for them. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, like you don't even get. You're not oversaturating the market, Hasbro. Are you crazy? You're coming out with a new set every 3 weeks. What the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Yeah,
shit's crazy
how
to
are
me.
the artists keeping up with this shit?
That's what I'm saying, dude. They're gonna kill the whole thing. Like, they are overdoing it. Like, they're gonna burn their people out. Like, they're gonna burn the whole thing out. They're gonna burn their
Unless they're
customers
using
out.
that fucking AI generated. That's the real
Oh
scary thing.
no. Oh,
Yeah,
I could see it. I could see them getting that desperate, dude. I could see them getting that desperate. That would be a dark day. That would probably be
yeah,
the end of Magic the Gathering, actually, if they ever do that. But yeah, it's like, dude, I mean, I've seen this in the company I work for too. Like, the CEO we have now, I don't feel like he's an idiot, but I also don't think he really knows what's going on, you know, in the like lower levels of the business. Like, I don't think he really has a picture of that. And to
yeah.
me, like, I don't know, maybe a CEO, a business is too big for them to understand that stuff, but the
I mean,
idea that
that's
he
why they
doesn't.
have people in divisions. Like, like I'm pretty sure, like, if you want to say like the president doesn't know what's going on with, the Navy all the time. That's why he has a representative of the Navy, whoever's the top commander, to tell him
Yeah,
like,
but this
hey,
is where
this is
corruption comes into play, because those people aren't honest, and that's what happened. That's what's happening at my company. Like, they're not honest with what's going on, actually going on. They're like giving a clean picture when there isn't. It isn't a clean picture.
yeah, and I get that. It's just, I mean, I'm not defending for CEOs at all. Don't believe me. I'm just trying to give objective
I
opinions.
mean, you're right.
Like,
You're not wrong. You're not
yeah,
wrong.
yeah. I mean,
But
from a standpoint, like you're way not way at the yeah, you way at the top, and but you know what? You're right though. At the end of the day, people look at you. Your investors, especially if you're a public company, your investors look at you because you are the face of the company. They don't say, well, they do say Microsoft failed, but then they always look at, well, who was the CEO of
right, the
Microsoft when they
buck
failed?
stops with that person. So
Exactly,
ultimately, they do need to know what's going on. Like, and that's
exactly.
that's kind of my point. And when investors and economists, and I mean, Bank of America is a very well, like, it's a bank. I don't really love them that much, but they are a respected institution when it comes to the economy. And the fact that they are saying about your company that you're oversaturating the market, and your answer is no, we're not, and that's it. You just leave it at that. You don't even go like look at it, think about it, even. Like, that's insane. That is insane to me. That is totally
It's like
insane.
it's like before he said that response, he read a whole bunch of chat memes. Like, yeah, I'm about to be that guy.
He's like on QAnon or some shit,
Yeah,
like,
he's like, yeah. He says something, doesn't elaborate
he's like
further. Like
he's
that's
like,
the
"Yeah,
meme.
fake news," He's like, "Yeah, that's fake news." Like, "Okay. All right, dude.
Yeah.
All right,
I
Hasbro,
don't
see
know.
you."
I mean, not just with Hasbro and everything like that. I think like with video games in general as well. I think video games are especially egregious because
Yeah.
a lot of the CEOs do not know what their video games entail and everything of
What
that
their
nature.
community even
What their
wants.
community is. I think Xbox, Phil Spencer, like he did some shady shit, but like as far as like, being the head of Xbox or whatever, it was probably the best decision they ever made. They got somebody who was like in the mud, and then they made them the CEO, because Matrick, and then I forgot the guy before him, especially Don Matrick though. Like what he did with Xbox, it was like he didn't understand what the fuck
Yeah.
was going
Right.
on. You
Right.
know?
Well, in a lot of ways, the way Jim Ryan is now with
Yeah,
PlayStation.
exactly. Yeah, with the way Jim Ryan is like, bro, do you know what's going on with Sony right now? And it's
No,
like,
dude, there's pictures of him holding a controller and he's like doesn't hold it right. And it's like, dude, how do you have a CEO who doesn't even know how to hold your product? You know? That's
eh,
crazy.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I think the last good CEO to be like truly in touch with what their whole motto was maybe Steve Jobs when he had Apple before he died,
Mhm.
and he was like really in touch with like almost every level of Apple was influenced by him, right? And it's like it's kind of hard to get that kind of CEO back where like they're
Mhm.
they influence the company is them and they are the company.
Mm.
You really don't see that too much anymore. I guess like you can say Elon Musk is al- almost that to a degree,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like uh I don't know. Elon Musk is like a guy that's like, the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while, which means every once in a while he has a good idea and it comes to fruition.
Yeah.
But there are a whole bunch of bad ideas in between that. But
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, just moving on. I think yeah, maybe Hasbro. I'm not really too much into the Hasbro life or that company and Magic the Gathering. But I do remember, in passing here, y'all talk about how many times they release
Mm.
different sets and everything like that. So
Mhm.
hopefully they learn their lesson. And because if not, I mean, I can see the next article of us like 2 or 3 months later being artists going strike. Like,
Well, dude, this is the thing I think they need to get a reality check on is that at this point with Magic the Gathering, like we as a Magic community don't need them. I like that there's new sets. I like that they release new sets every few weeks, and you can buy new product and get new cards, and there's new card designs and stuff like that. But the thing is, the game has so many cards at this point that I think the game could exist in perpetuity with a diehard community playing it without Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast making any more products.
mm,
Theoretically, there's that many cards, and there's enough supply of those cards out there that there's plenty. There's enough that the community could sustain itself and continue to play. Like like for instance, my friend group, right? We have our decks and we have our built decks and everything like that. We could keep playing if you know Magic the Gathering stopped making product and it was just like gone. It's not like our cards would go away. Like we could keep playing with the decks we have, and fuck, there's a supply of cards out there. Prices would probably skyrocket, but you would still be able to do it. So and then at a certain point, fuck it. Once it's gone, you can just proxy the cards. Like their fucking images are out there. Like you can just make your own. So I mean, I think they've severely overestimated their importance within the sphere of their community with that game, and people are like simps for the product line for sure. Like they just buy whatever fucking comes out, but I think there's less and less of those people out there. The more and more I like absorb Magic content, the more I see a dissatisfaction building with the community where people are like, I don't buy sets anymore. I just buy singles, which they don't get a fucking penny of. So fuck them. It's like I see a lot of that sentiment out there, and it's growing for sure because of their actions. So, all right, we stuck on that a little long. So let's move on.
yeah.
Uh, IO Interactive on January 3rd announced Hitman 3 is going to be turning into Hitman World of Assassination. So this is a really interesting thing, actually, that I feel like I haven't seen happen in games before, and it's actually a really cool idea. So, on January 26th, so 2 weeks from the day of recording, Hitman 3 is going to become Hitman World of Assassination, which is going to include access to Hitman 1 and Hitman 2 through our existing access through the existing Access Pass system. Current Hitman 3 owners will get a free upgrade to Hitman World of Assassination on all platforms. And they are simplifying the purchase experience for new players. Hitman World of Assassination will be the single available option to start playing. So you will not be able to buy Hitman 1 or Hitman 2 or Hitman 3 a la carte. You have to buy Hitman World of Assassination. That is the only way to play these games. So it's all going to be focused into one product. And as I said, if you have Hitman 3, you're going to get it for free. So it'll be upgraded for free, meaning that if you've only played Hitman 3 and you've never played Hitman 1 and 2, you don't have to buy those now. You're going to get those games. You're going to get that content for free. Now, I will say you can access that content through Hitman 3 today, but it is a super janky method from what I understand. And this is going to significantly simplify all of that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, I mean, the game is going to come out at $70. So this is a way for them to sell more, copies of this game. However, you're getting 3 games in one game. So I do feel like it is fairly justified. And those of you who are savvy, if you can get Hitman 3 now for cheaper, cheaper than than $70, you're going to get the upgrade for free. So, if you want to do that, check that out. I may actually do that myself. I've been wanting to play these games for a while now. So, Montreal, what do you think of this? Is this is pretty consumer friendly? No,
Yeah, so when they say Hitman 1 and 2, are they talking about the old
no,
Hitman
no, no,
games
no.
or like
The new ones, the ones that have been coming out since 2016.
okay, okay. So those
Remember,
are
they've released 3 Hitman games since 2016.
okay, gotcha. Were those seasons or were those like actual full games?
No, yeah, remember, so IO was under Square Enix when Hitman 1 came out, and it was an episodic game that came out in episodes. I think it was
Okay.
3 episodes. Then they broke off from Square Enix for whatever reason. Square just let them go and take the IP with them. They are an independent company at that point, and then they made Hitman 2 and released Hitman 2, which I believe WB published. And then that was really successful. So then they made Hitman 3 and they released Hitman 3 and they actually self-published Hitman 3. Um, so yeah, there's 3 games and they're all going to be in this package. The old ones are not in here. That's not part of
Okay,
this. So
gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah, you know what? I may just buy Hit. I like the old game. I haven't played the newer ones.
I've heard
But
they're
from
so good, dude. Oh my god.
yeah, I was about to say that. I heard like the creativity that you can do as far as
Mhm.
an assassin and everything is
Yep.
insane. So yeah, I actually may pick this up myself because I actually like the Hitman games. I like the concept of it. I like the older ones, and if from what I hear, the newer ones are just as good or not even better. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the other thing with this too is if you happen to own Hitman 1 or 2 or both, and you want to buy this, it will be prorated. Um, so you will get a discount based on how much you own already. So if you own those 2, it may cost $25 to upgrade to the new
this
one.
sounds like a developer that is extremely happy with this community.
Yeah, I
Like
would bet
I
I would bet that their fans are very probably love IO Interactive. And they do. They're one of the biggest independent developers in the fucking world right now, actually, IO Interactive. They are hyper successful ever since they left Square Enix. Like it is hilarious. How much leaving Square has helped them out. Like it's nuts. So
yeah, yeah, I may definitely do this myself. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
I need to go watch some gameplay, I think, because this game sounds like these games sound badass. There's 21 different destinations that you can go to in this game, like in these games, between all of them when they combine them together. That is nuts. So, um, yeah, it's gonna be cool, and that's on January 26th is when that's happening. So, all right, Montreal, that's it for the news. We had one thing that you brought up, a topic that we wanted to discuss here on the show. So, let's get into this real quick. So, this happens in December that a federal judge in the United States ruled that movie studios can be sued over deceptive movie trailers. So this came up. There was a lawsuit over the movie. What is it called? Yesterday, and the trailers for that movie showed an actress, Ana de Armas, in the trailers, and that actress was not in the final product. Like they were cut from the movie. That is what the studio claims. Is that there was a whole bunch of footage and there was a whole plot line with this character that was totally just cut from the movie entirely. But the judge still ruled in favor of not in favor of the movie studio. So this basically sets a precedent now that movie studios can be sued for deceptive movie trailers. Now, what we don't know is what does this extend to? Is this just only for movies? Does this extend to video games? Because we've talked about like Halo 5 in the past. You know, that game had very deceptive marketing. And we've talked about deceptive marketing for other games. Like I think Fallout 76 had some weird deceptive. It wasn't like a major controversy in my opinion, but like video game marketing is like a meme in my head because they never show the games. So to me, it's inherently deceptive the way they market video games. So, yeah. So go ahead. You're the one that you wanted to talk about this. So you want to give your thoughts first?
Yeah, so the reason I shared this is like some weeks ago too. The reason I shared this is because, like Justin said, video game marketing is very deceptive. Um, Now it's very subjective on what the deception is, because, like you said, I think the greatest example, the greatest current modern day example, is Halo 5. The way that game was marketed was you're going to be able to play, you're going to be able to pick a side,
Yeah.
and either you're going to hunt Master Chief down or Master Chief's going to hunt down Agent Locke. And this is the story and everything like that. Someone's going to die at the end. That's what it was marketed as. And that plot line that I just gave y'all never fucking happened at all.
It's not in the game at
Like,
all. Yeah.
nothing. They have one little tussle in the game, and that's it. And they work together again. But they've been hyping it up for a while. And then another thing is like, and I know this is really popular with like RTS games. Like you have these trailers like StarCraft and Age of Empires and everything like that have these like really epic big battles with these cinematic things and everything like that. And then you play the game and trust me, y'all, I love these type of games. But you got these little isometric men just walking around and you building bases and shit like that, and they're gathering resources. You're like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be fighting giant aliens and shit like that. And where's the big ass suits and everything like that?
No,
So it's
I implore everybody listening to this to go watch the Fallout 76 like advertising that they were doing on TV. I don't understand like what you were supposed to take out of that advertising. It is so absurd. Like there's just people shooting guns, running around. Like there's a woman in a dress like doing fucking pirouettes with two like Uzis, like fucking like spinning in a circle. Like I have no idea what they were going for there. Like
yeah,
so yeah.
they're trying to just show the absurdity of like Fallout, but
Which
I
the
think
game has none of that. It's like the game as it existed at that point had none of that shit. Like what?
yeah.
I don't know.
So I mean that's a whole different conversation. How Fallout uh fed into the absurdity,
Yeah.
which was a whole thing, but that wasn't the main point of Fallout. It was supposed to be making fun of certain things, but not, you know, leaning into that. But then, whatever. Bethesda. But anyway, so like, and that brings it back to like movies. But then you have movies like Marvel, right? Like I remember Endgame Part 1 came out.
Mm-hmm.
They showed stuff in the trailer that wasn't in the movie, but it wasn't like deceptive. But they did show stuff like so they wouldn't spoil the movie. Because you remember we complained about this a while back where we
Right.
stopped
Watch
watching
the
movie
trailer,
trailers
and I was about to
because
bring that up. Yep.
they gave away the plot synopsis
Mm-hmm.
of what was going on. I was
Yep.
like, I can tell from the plot from the movie trailer what's going to happen.
Yep.
Um, and then Marvel came out and started doing that with their show or with their movies where they start doing different cuts. They may show the same cut but from a different angle. And that if you know anything about movies, that can change the tone of the movie completely. So it's very subjective, but it's a very, I think, a good idea because like say like for instance, if the latest Iron Man, right, had fucking Tom Cruise in it, and you know, I want to watch a Tom Cruise movie. I'm a Tom Cruise fan or whatever. I'm not really, but I don't have nothing against the guy. I'm just whatever. I'm just an example. So I was like, oh shit, Iron Man 4 or 5 is gonna happen. fucking Tom Cruise in it,
Yeah.
and they show trailers of Tom Cruise getting inside the fucking thing, and he's flying around and shit. Now I see the movie, and it's Jason Statham, and I'm like, bro, what? What happened to Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Like, that's deceptive, right?
Mhm.
So video games do the same shit. I'm trying to remember a video game where they changed the whole fucking and it happened a couple times. I just can't remember it right now. Whereas like the plot in the trailer they show, you're like, wow. And then the game comes out and it's like completely fucking different.
Yeah.
Uh but yeah, that happens in video games all the time where like the trailers they show, even the gameplay trailers they show are
Aren't.
completely different
Yep.
from the game. And that happened with like Grand Blue. Or like, well, that game didn't come out yet. But like that game from when it was announced is completely different from
They've
when
redesigned it, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so
Metal Gear
yeah,
Rising that
yeah,
happened. Like
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good points there that I want to explore real quick here. Like, so this is a weird thing because this is subjective, right? Some people hate the idea of like hate like us for instance like we don't watch movie trailer we don't watch video game trailers or movie trailers once we're convinced that we want to see or experience a game or a movie,
Yeah.
right? Like we stop because we don't want to be spoiled, and so I don't the idea of because Naughty Dog did this with The Last of Us Part 2, their trailers, like if you go back and watch them, um they have they suggest things that aren't in the game, you know um,
Yep.
because like Ellie, there's a trail. One of the first trailers was Ellie, because I remember this got people like super hyped. I think this was a PSX where they showed Ellie like murdering a bunch of dudes and like talking about revenge or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And then Joel walks in and is like, "You thought you were gonna do this without me?" And
Oh
yeah,
my god. Are you serious? That
yeah, no,
happened?
I'm totally serious. Yes, that like I don't know if it happens that exact way, but I remember that trailer because that's not the way the game plays out. So
Oh
that's a
my god.
deceptive trailer, factually a deceptive trailer. And they talk like Neil Druckmann literally talked about like yes, we did that on purpose because we did not want to reveal anything that happens in the game. Like really, they did that like totally on purpose.
Dude, that's crazy. No
So
wonder why people were pissed. I didn't see that trailer.
well,
That's insane.
this is the funny part though, right? That game, the thing people are mad about that game is not that. Nobody talks about that. Like, have you ever heard anyone talk about that? You didn't even know. Like,
No, no, this
you
is
know,
my first time hearing about that.
yeah.
No,
So,
yeah.
so the thing people were mad about was the leaks and the way the story played out and all that shit. And it had nothing to do with the marketing, right? So it's like this is like a weird thing that because some people they fucking hate this stuff where if they don't show what's actually in the movie, they think that's like they don't want that in trailers, so it's like it really depends on where you're standing, I think, whether you care or not. However, there is a side of this of like capitalism and the law in regards to advertising because there are laws around false advertising. If you show stuff that's not actually in the product, that kind of is like factually speaking false advertising, right?
Yeah.
In a way, you could maybe suggest things that are vaguely like it, like what the actual film or game is. And I guess you could argue that's enough, but so there's like another side to this. But then there's the other side to this with the on the company side where they like Grand Blue. I'm glad you brought up Grand Blue Fantasy. I think it's called Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Yeah, that game has transformed in the years since it was first announced, and they've basically redesigned it. And should that be held against them? Like, I don't. So that feels like a bridge too far. Like, is it
Yeah, exactly.
wrong that they internally reflected and were like, okay, we don't think this works well? And the same with this movie yesterday, right? They literally cite that they got feedback from like people watching it or before the movie was out that plot line didn't resonate with people, so they just took the character out and took it all out, to try to make the movie better. So is that like should they be punished for that because they showed some trailers that had that character in it? And it's like I don't know. It's like actually a really deep rabbit hole when you start really thinking about it. That I am not comfortable with the idea of that people being able to sue necessarily for false advertising in 100% of situations, you know?
Yeah, and
Um,
I totally agree with that. Like,
yeah.
it is a slippery slope
Mhm.
because you're right. I think especially with video games in particular, as long as you show like the current product you're making,
Yes.
like you're like, we have updated this. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake, for instance, right?
Mhm.
That's a prime example. When
Mhm.
they first showed it, it was made by CyberConnect 2.
Yep.
Um,
And they changed
and they
developers
were
and
and they
redid the whole
changed
thing.
developers,
Yep.
and then they showed gameplay of the current system that's coming out for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yep.
Now, if they had shown the old system and they made, and we know they changed developers, right? But they just kept showing the old footage from CyberConnect 2, and then the game comes out, and they were like, I mean, sure, yeah, that's like really good, and that gameplay was like really good. But what if people are looking
Mm,
for the CyberConnect 2 gameplay, and they're like, yo, this isn't what I signed up for. This
right.
is not it.
Yeah.
So I I guess in my thing is like maybe they should have really had another marketing campaign and not show that actress anymore. Where
Yeah.
people are like, I noticed like, and maybe have the actress come out and say like, hey, I'm not going to be in the movie. They cut my part out, or whatever. I still got paid for it, but I'm not going to be in the
She
movie.
may
Sorry,
not even know
guys.
that though, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'd have to
So
come from the studio. It's a little more awkward with movies because I think with games you could say that we would base it off of whatever the last trailer you showed was, you know,
yeah.
because games are going to change in development, right? That happens all the time. Movies are a little different because they're not iterative like that generally.
Hmm.
You kind of just shoot it and you work with the footage you have. You know, you might
Yeah.
reconfigure it in some way, cut some things, but you're not like. And sometimes there are reshoots that does happen, but you know, it's not like nearly as
It's not as
common.
flexible as
It's
a
not as
video
flexible as
game.
a video game, right? It's like you got to
Yeah.
work with what you have at a certain point with movies. So it's kind of harder with film. I feel like because if you decide to cut a character out like entirely, how do you communicate that without doing like a press release or something? It's like that's fucking awkward. Like
Yeah, you would
I
have to do a press release. I don't. Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about it because like the more I think about it and talk about it, I'm like, yeah, that lawsuit shit is actually insane. But then it's like, yeah, but that fucks over the fans of that actress or whatever. And then what if it's like a whole gameplay thing, right? Like this is not
don't.
as serious, but like I think some people can sue Apex over like
Mhm.
Seer in
Yeah.
Catalyst, right? You remember we saw the trailer for Seer and Catalyst when they were fighting. She
Yeah.
put up her alt, and he
Yeah.
threw up his alt, and he couldn't see her on the other side of the alt. And then when you play the game, you can still see people, even if I throw up my wall or Catalyst throws up her wall. Seer, he throws up his alt. Seer can still see on the other side of the map. We can still see the footsteps. So, or on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of like false advertising because what if like we played the game for the first time and we had a whole strategy around that and it didn't happen. We lost the tournament or some bullshit like that. You know what I'm saying? I guess this is why you got to play the game. So it's like, I don't know, but like that type of shit is prevalent in gaming and I guess in movies as well. Like it's just a weird thing
Yeah,
to,
gameplay stuff, I think, because you remember the controversy like early in the PS4 generation when they were like downscaling games, where they would show games looking like amazing, and then the game would come out and it was like like polygonal and like the textures weren't there and shit. You know,
yeah,
like
yep.
we remember with what was it? What fucking oh my god,
Well,
Ubisoft's
I think a prime.
the hacker
I
game.
was
What
going to
was it?
say Watch Dogs. I think
Yeah,
Watch Dogs
Watch
is a
Dogs. Yeah,
prime
God, I just had a
example of that shit.
yeah, right. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. That shit was like super prevalent, and then we kind of like bludgeoned them down about it because there was so much outrage every time it happened. So it doesn't happen really much as much anymore. But that would be false advertising to me, right? Like
Yeah, I think that's 100% false advertising.
so
You're
it's kind of case
you're
by
showing a
case.
game. Yeah, it's a. I think it would be a case by case thing with judges and stuff like that, and it will be up to the judges to either like get rid of or rewrite the law to where people can't sue, or maybe developers and movie studios like get their change the way they do trailers. Um,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be a super big topic. But I just thought it was interesting because, like we said, there's a lot of interesting cases with video
Well,
games where they just
yeah. It's
change the
already
entire game.
it's already come and gone. I don't really see much discussion about this, but we will see it more if people actually start taking advantage of this.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Marvel is cited in this article. Like Marvel does that shit all the time, where they have exclusive footage and trailers that's literally not in the movie at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting thing. I think I don't know. I think when it's intentional and you're trying to do it to not show certain parts of the movie or not give anything away with your movie, I don't I don't know if that's not something I feel like that's in bad faith, right? Like,
Exactly. I was just about to say that because
yeah.
like it's not like they're showing Spider-Man in
They're not
Marvel
trying to
Civil
trick
War.
you, you know?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like they show Spider-Man Civil War, right, in the trailers, and then the movie starts and Spider-Man's nowhere to be found in the movie. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
uh,
that would be one where, yeah, that's in bad faith. Like,
yeah, exactly,
probably because they know Spider-Man is like big enough where that's gonna hype people and make them go see the movie, right? But
exactly. Yeah.
they didn't do
So,
that though, so it's like that kind of
mm,
minor thing where there's certain scenes that you see or lines of dialogue that aren't a movie. Like, it's that big enough of a deal. Like I said, they're not trying to trick you. Like, if they did that thing with Spider-Man, they're definitely trying to trick people to go see the movie. But yeah, I think it's kind of case by case. So, but it'll be
yeah,
interesting to see though if this ever does extend to video games. Um, because video game marketing is hilariously like deceptive. I think in general, like for instance, my wife like downloaded this mobile game that's like it's just like a mahjong, like you match symbols or whatever, but it's a free game, and you get these like things that can help you out. You can like you shuffle up the board, or you can like finish a match if you don't have enough space to like get the symbols you need. But to do that, you have to watch an ad, and the ads are almost exclusively mobile games. And dude, the amount of mobile game ads I've seen in the last like 3 weeks are hilarious. These ads are insane. I like so find them, dude. They are so fucking
I know.
funny,
I see them all the time, bro. I see
bro.
them all the time
They're
on the
so
timeline. I see them everywhere, bro.
like, there's one called Merge Mansion. Go look that one up. It's so funny.
Merge.
And and dude, like there's so much of this simp bait out there, like simp bait, like mobile games where it's like a single mom with like a little
Oh
daughter.
my god,
Oh,
yeah, bro.
and like you're literally like the woman's like hot, and like she's like her house like burned down, and you gotta like board up the window and like put wood in the fire and like start a fire and like give her a stove, and like it's like fucking crazy shit.
It was this one game,
Oh my
bro.
god.
I swear it was copyright infringement. Like, oh, I wish I could remember the name of the game. But the ad, it was like one of those Shadow Raid type games or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Raid Shadow Legends. It was another game, and the ad literally had like a monk type kid with like two symbols on his head
Yeah.
doing airbending, like he was airbending
Oh my
and
god.
everything. And it wasn't Aang. You can tell it wasn't Aang, but they were like, "Yeah, this is clearly Aang, right?"
Yeah.
It was just, and then he was getting trained by a monk, and then somebody threw fire at the monk off screen. The screen turns to that person, and it was like a person that looked like one of the Fire Nation people. And I was like, bro, are you fucking serious? Like this
Yeah.
is, but it was like a gotcha game, like a gotcha hero RPG game or whatever. So
Mhm.
it was just like, I'm just like, bro, what are these ads doing, bro? And
Well,
then
like
I don't know about
yeah.
my timeline, but since I talk about anime and stuff like that,
Yeah.
on my timeline, they'll show me like these fucking these anime gotcha games with like romance elements to them, and they'll be like these super hot, fucking anime character girls half naked and everything. And it's like, first of all, this is Android. I mean, this is iPhone. They don't allow those type of games.
Mhm.
Like your games can't have full nudity on iPhone market. So Android is like it's no bars. Like you can download porn games on the Android market and everything. But
Yeah.
like on iPhone markets, Apple's really strict. So it's like even that's like a form of false advertising. Like it's just insane to me. It's crazy.
Well, no,
So
these are totally false advertising. Dude, I found an article about the Merge Mansion game. So this game is a stupid mobile game about like cleaning a house, right? And the fucking ads are this like this woman like it's just like her husband died or something, and she's like her house got burned down, so she has to like go live with the grandma. That's like the premise of her having to clean the house, I guess. But then there's like these arcs and these videos of like the ads where that don't happen in the game at all. Like this isn't in the game. But like the grandma's like a murderer and was like there's all these like twists and turns where she's like, "You're next," she's like saying that to her fucking granddaughter and shit. It's like, what the fuck? Like, dude, how do they get away with this shit? Like, that is false advertising, man. They make the game look like sounds so interesting, but then it's just like some stupid fucking like mobile game, like dumb. And then there's another one they reference here called Lily's Garden, which I think is another one of these that I was seeing ads for. With a like total like story based advertisements that had nothing to do with the game, it's like, so yeah, it's, you want to talk about this, like what we're talking about here, mobile game advertising encapsulates what we're talking about here of what you shouldn't be doing and what should be suable for sure to me. So yeah, there's some funny shit out there, but I would recommend, if you want to laugh, go find a montage of like mobile game ads. They are fucking insane, like hilariously insane, dude.
They are. They
Um,
are. It's
so
actually insane.
yeah. But like I was saying, you're gonna find so much simp bait out there. It's crazy. Like how many of these games try to like draw in like lonely dudes with like a hot looking character, and it's like, oh, she needs your help. You have to save her. It's like, oh my, like what the hell. But my favorite one actually that I saw was Royal Match, I think is what it's called. And it's one where like a king is like in all these really horrific situations and you need to save
Yeah.
him. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
It's so fucking funny, dude. Oh my god. Because every time they show the person playing the game doing it wrong, so the king like dies or whatever, and it's like they're trying to infuriate you, like, oh, why are they playing it like? But it's just, I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
rambling.
well, the one I
It's
see a
funny.
lot is like the dog trapped in a hole or something like that, and the bees are trying to get to it, and they have to
Okay.
draw like a shield for it,
Yeah.
and like the bees always get to the dog, and I always see it.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, what the fuck, man?
Yeah,
And
man.
then you try to download the game is nothing like that at all. It's a
There's
completely
no
different
dog.
game.
There's no bees.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
just,
completely different game.
oh my
And I'm
god.
like, bro, what the fuck,
It's
man?
funny as hell, man. But yeah, no, it's funny stuff. Mobile gaming is, man, it's a weird place. So, but all right, well, I think that's all for today, Montreal. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, let's close out the show then. If you like this episode, please like the show, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And please share with your friends. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montreal. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at ThunderNut01, and the show is at the Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to playerstake01@gmail.com. And that is going to be it for us, guys. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we will see you next week. Bye.